Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby!
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
What's got fast cars, Charlie Sheen, and barely constituted as a horror movie? Well, it's called The Wraith, and you guys made us watch it. So, let's sit down and talk about it on Horror Movie Night. I want to read one of the emails that we got. I don't remember who sent this to us, so up front, I apologize. But it says, I'm adding a suggestion to you guys. The underappreciated, strange Charlie Sheen movie titled The Wraith. It rides the line of horror just a little bit, given that he's a ghost that drives around the sweetest ride ever and kills members of a punk gang responsible for his death and his younger brother's torment. Featuring a bizarrely intense Randy Quaid as a highway patrol officer, this movie has a weird charm to it. This is already too long for you to read on the air, so I'll cut it here, but thanks for the entertainment, guys.
Who sent that in?
I don't know. We got like 3 emails asking for The Wraith. Like, this was a big one for people. Let me try to see if I can find out that information. But in the meantime, I'm going to step down from my hosting duties and give Scott the honor of telling us what happens in The Wraith, possibly the most 80s film I've ever seen, specifically in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So remember how last week when I was like, my expectations were high and then dashed against the rocks of this island in American Gothic and then brought back up by the last 20 minutes. This movie's the exact opposite. It starts on a real high note with this sweet 80s intro. And I'm like, so this is like Horror Knight Rider, right? It's not at all. It's like Dukes of Hazzard with Charlie Sheen. It's a ghost Dukes of Hazzard. It is the most boring shit you can sit through on Horror Movie Night. Like, it's not the worst movie that we've discussed, but it is completely useless. It is a worthless film.
Useless.
How did they get Charlie Sheen? How did they get Randy? Well, okay. Let me rephrase that. How did they get Charlie Sheen? Because Randy Quaid, we don't have to ask that question.
Here's how they got Charlie Sheen. Because they said, "Hey, Charlie Sheen, how'd you like to star in a movie that you only have to appear in 4 scenes in?" And he was like, "All right." And then he used that money to get cocaine. That's exactly how they got Charlie Sheen in this movie. Because not only is he super miscast in this movie, and he is super miscast in this movie, but he is barely in this movie, and he is the star of the movie.
Yeah, they really when he comes onto the screen, you're like, "Oh shit!" Or at least they're really trying to push the "oh shit" moment. It doesn't feel like that because come on now, but it's very apparent that they're pushing that idea really hard.
There's only one person who's accurately casted in this movie, and that's because being the geeky 80s version of a 50s greaser is somehow the role that Clint Howard was born to play.
That hair. Holy shit.
He's perfect in this movie. If this movie was just him, I'd be so much more into this movie.
If this was Evil Speak meets Knight Rider, holy shit.
Yeah.
We'd have a film, boys. We'd have a film.
I mean, don't touch the soundtrack because the soundtrack is undeservedly great to this movie.
Oh, that shit slaps, dude.
So it's got the best Ozzy Osbourne song I'd never heard of.
Yeah, that song was great.
I'm a secret loser.
That song's incredible, and I've never heard of it my entire life.
I didn't even know it was Ozzy. And then I was like, oh shit, this song rules. What's this soundtrack? And I was like, that's Ozzy Osbourne.
So,
wow.
Folks, when you're looking through crates of records, never pass up The Wraith, because holy shit, man. That whole soundtrack was incredible.
Like, it's really fucking good. Is that just like, was that a song just for this movie? Like, I don't have all of the Ozzy discography, so it's possible it's on like a deep cut, but
I'm not positive, but I think it's a mixture of tracks made specifically for that movie, and obviously tracks that had come out as singles or parts of other albums. I'm not sure of that one. I think there's like one or two songs that were specifically for that movie. So again, in the way that like they only got Charlie Sheen for a certain amount of time, they probably only got 2 songs for a certain amount of money, and then they just had to deal with the rest. Clint Howard was free. Clint Howard paid to be in this movie.
Yes. No, Clint Howard was like, just make my hair big and I'll be in this movie for free.
Okay, so it is on an Ozzy Osbourne album. It is on The Ultimate Sin from 1986. So
okay.
There we go.
So one of the forgotten ones.
That like between Randy Rhoads and Zakk Wylde era of Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, I know that you meant to say era, but you said error, and it was just too perfect. So, all right, let me get into the meat of this movie, which there isn't much. It's about as thick as one of those cheeseburgers that they sell at the stupid diner in this movie. So the concept of this film is that the greasers race for pink slips because it's still 1957 in this remote part of Arizona, and it's revealed that the what's his name? What's the name of the Packard?
Yes,
Walsh. He is the leader of the pack.
The leader of the pack.
Yeah, but this is our all singing, all shitting on the movie episode. So they race for pink slips and they steal. They steal this dude's car. By like running him off the road. He's like, you cheated, and he's like, you better just walk away while you still can, blah blah blah.
Well, they sexually assault a poor woman.
Yeah.
Yes, there's that too. Yeah. And then in flashbacks you see that Carrie, the female lead, was dating this guy, and that her boyfriend Jamie was killed by Packard and his gang. Let's just get to the meat of that story, because it's like so heavily implied that it's not really a shock when they show you that in the scene when she remembers.
Yeah. I thought that was the case. I thought the first flashback showed him. I was with it the whole movie, and I was like, oh, we're revealing this?
yeah, because like who the fuck else has like a duck butt hairdo and a switchblade?
And like has like a weird mean streak that we already have established, on the weird roads of Arizona.
Yeah. So that's the whole point of it, is that this Packard dude is a complete asshole, and now is making Carrie date him because nobody will stop him apparently. So Sheriff Loomis sucks, and is worthless. That's it, yeah, and that's. I think that's about as close to being a horror movie as this is. It's like, hey, we're gonna do some fan service for you.
But like, here's the one thing I have to say in its defense. Like, I don't think this is very much a horror movie at all, and normally I would bitch that our listeners are like completely in the wrong, but fucking Shudder seems to think it's a horror movie because they.
Yeah, it was on Shudder. Yeah, and Netflix had it under horror. When they had it, so I don't know.
In some ways, it's a supernatural revenge tale. So like, but if when you pitch it, it turns out to be one. But when you watch it, it's not. So it's like, in order to get people to watch it, you have to pitch it in the way that it is supposed to be, I guess. So you're talking about a revenge-filled ghost who fucking drives it's not a sweet car. I don't like that car.
Looks like garbage.
I don't fucking like that car.
It looks like something straight out of Tron. Like if one of the vehicles from Tron was on the road.
Yeah, 80s aesthetic was absolutely ridiculous. But that also brings me to a note that I have. I can't tell if this was a commercial for sports cars or Coke. Like literally, one of two things made this movie happen, and I'm not sure which it was. I'm leaning towards cocaine.
So this movie,
no, it has to be.
This movie also has kind of a weird, like, it's just the class of 1984, but like if the teacher was a killer car. Like that's literally what this movie is.
Yes.
Dude, but not even so, because like Class of 1984, even in its exaggeration, the anxiety of that movie is so high. This one, you're like, is this a fucking city on Earth? Is this like are we on this planet right now? Are we?
Yeah, nothing matters. Nothing matters in this movie. Nothing happens that like has any sort of
And
repercussion.
it's so beloved.
And Arizona in big quotes. Yeah, dude. Arizona in big fucking quotes. I don't believe for a second that we're anywhere that exists.
I don't get this movie is so well loved. Like every time that we mention, we're watching The Wraith, people are like, oh man, I fucking love The Wraith. Like,
I think that they saw it one time when they were kids and have not watched it since because
must be.
It's one of those movies where the concept is sweet. The tagline is awesome. The tagline is "He's not from around here," which is, it gives a great mystique to this movie.
Yeah.
The cover, the poster and the tagline and the concept of this film are
well, that's the thing. This
sweet.
is like I hate that I didn't like this movie that much because it's one of the few movies. It's been a long time since we've had a movie like this where the whole time I'm watching it, I keep thinking to myself like, I should like this more. Like everything about it should be something I loved, and I was just like, it just missed. It missed so hard.
I agree. I absolutely agree because I love 80s aesthetic and I love fucking synthwave music, and I don't know. I loved the outfits that they had in this movie. I didn't love the punks though. The greasers rather. They were so annoying. Sorry, we all got sidetracked. But
yeah.
So Charlie Sheen comes into town shirtless. Or no, I guess his shirt is unbuttoned as he's on his motorcycle. Comes up to Carrie as she's leaving for school or I don't know. They seem like they're in high school.
Did she go to school at the burger joint?
Yeah, apparently that's where she's getting her education. So, but Carrie's outfit is hot. Like Carrie is a very attractive woman, and they put her in a lot of really great 80s outfits in this movie. Not to the point where you're like, wow, that this is really just kind of playing to the audience. She's hot.
Stereotypically 80s outfits in order to make us feel that way.
Yes. Yeah. It felt realistic, at least. That was like the most realistic part of this movie were her outfits. But then, so she's like gonna get on the bike with this dude she just met. That's how bad life sucks in this town in Arizona. Is like this random dude comes up and she's like, you know what? Maybe he's going to kill me, or maybe we're going to have a horrid accident on the winding roads outside of town because none of us are wearing any motorcycle gear. But it's better than the other options that I got going on. So let's do it.
She's kind of got that like everything in the Flintstones philosophy of like, it's a living. Like she's just like.
But then her plan with Packard is to go to the culvert from The Incredible Melting Man where the drunk fisherman gets decapitated and sunbathe all day long.
Deep cut.
And I was expecting, well, it's not really a deep cut because we just did it a couple months ago. That's why it's on my mind.
Fair enough.
But I was expecting these 80s punks because they look like punks when you first see them, but they're really greasers and they're not nearly as entertaining. But I was like, oh yeah, 80s punks, they're always entertaining when we have them in the movies that we discuss. These guys were painful to watch. I mean, Augie, which is Ron Howard's character.
No, Ron right? Howard's Ragman.
Yeah, Augie was the first one who died.
Okay, sorry, Augie.
Spoiler alert.
They're gonna the first time they see the actual Wraith shows up and they're like, oh, I want that car. And so Augie's gonna race him, and I think Packard is the one that says, rip this guy a new asshole, do it to him Augie style. And I'm thinking
my favorite line.
That had to be like really they knew what they were doing when they wrote that line, right? Like guy on guy rape. That's what the implication is. So they spent so much money on the soundtrack and all the burning cars in this movie, and apparently Charlie Sheen for the whole 6 minutes. In Life Force, Matilda May is only in the movie for 7 whole minutes, but she's naked for like 6 of them.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen is probably only in this movie for 7 minutes. And I think he might only wear a shirt for 1 of them. So it's So then the whole point is that so Augie gets killed or he gets run off the road and his car explodes, and then they pull the body out of the wreckage and it's completely clear of damage except for its eyes are burnt out, and so they're like, oh, I don't like the way this is going. So that's the way everybody in the movie dies. Is the Wraith picks off one guy and then another guy, and then he like blows up their car shop out in the middle of nowhere. Like, how are there this many nice cars, and where are they getting the money to buy them? Because I'm assuming in the 80s you had to like mail order.
Yeah, when there's only 50 people in this town, and that's being generous.
Yeah, there are a total of 10 people that we see in this film. And so it's just so unbelievable. But in any case, so you get a bunch of scenes interspersed where Carrie is trying to work, and then her dead boyfriend's brother is trying to work, and they are getting intimidated by Packard, and then Charlie Sheen shows up some more, and then the cop is trying to intimidate the greasers, and then the greasers are huffing paint, and then
nice
shit, dude, I don't even know what happens next. I guess they blow up the they blow up the garage, and I believe at least one of the guys gets killed in that.
Die, well, yeah, Clint Howard decides to tell Randy Quaid, like, "Yo, we're being attacked by a ghost."
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and Randy Quaid's like, sure.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know we're missing about a half-hour chunk, but I couldn't tell you what that half-hour chunk was.
I don't think that I'm really missing a half-hour chunk here, man. I'm trying to condense it because there's nothing worth talking about.
Oh, no, yeah, no, you're not missing it. The film has half hour, but it doesn't.
No one in the audience missed anything during that time.
No, exactly. Like in my notes, I'm catching up the same place that you are with nothing in between, dude.
Right before that final the final race between the Wraith and Packard, is that where Packard slices his hand open and then slices Carrie's hand open and says this:
"Blood lovers,
we're like blood brothers. I guess you could call us blood lovers. That's how much I love you." And then he says, "When you feel nothing, you can do anything," and he licks the blood from his own fist. I feel like that guy came out of that scene and was like, yeah, that's the take.
I fucking showed him. Yeah. But whoever wrote the script didn't realize that blood lovers isn't a thing. Like, I don't think I never.
Once a month, it can be a thing.
Oh, whoa! I guess you're right. Noted. Like, I think there's like one or two other like races that between the like drag races between the Wraith, I guess, and some other like weird junky but also muscular car, and then like somebody dies, but we don't know who.
But then but I think before that we see Carrie get naked just randomly
briefly.
And I felt real bad for her because they spent all their money on Charlie Sheen and car explosions and the soundtrack, so they couldn't have paid her extra for getting naked in this film.
So you know what would make this movie a lot better now that I think about it is like we keep Clint Howard in his role because he's perfectly cast, but we replace the rest of the gang with Thomas Wilson, Billy Zane, and Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then this movie suddenly becomes 5 stars of greatness. But
fucking done deal. I'm looking at the credits now. I did not realize that Clint Howard's character was named Rughead. So we have that going.
Oh, I thought it was Raghead.
No, I have it. I have it as Rughead.
No, I believe you, but it's just that nobody can actually enunciate the lines in this film.
I thought it was Raghead too. And the only thing I want to say briefly about Clint Howard before I forget, because I didn't write it down, but I do know that he explained what a Wraith was. So I want Clint Howard's role in every movie to be him shouting the movie's title and then explaining what it means. So he's like, yeah, it's a Wraith, a phantom, a spirit. Like, I just want him to be like, oh, ticks. Like, yeah, they're like insects, but they like suck blood.
No.
Sometimes it's Lyme disease. I don't know.
This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a huge following, our gigantic following on Facebook to push a petition to get Clint Howard and Suicide Squad 2 so that he can be like, so you're saying there's some kind of Suicide Squad?
Like they're a group willing to kill themselves. Yeah. We'll write it. Like, nobody has to write it. We can do it.
We can actually put it into the that Google AI, and we can have it write it.
Okay,
and they'll do a
here's
better
what we
job
do
than
instead of
whoever
doing
wrote
the
that
online
garbage
petition
film.
is because I feel like the three of us probably have enough money in our pockets right now to pay for Clint Howard for a couple hours. Is we just hire Clint Howard for like 3 hours. And we just look on IMDb for like every film that's coming out in the next year and just have him do that for every film. And then we contact the directors and be like, have we got a surprise for you? We've shot a scene of your movie for you. Here you go. You're welcome.
It's like a weird Kickstarter perk that they never asked for in any of their movies.
We've talked a lot about getting John Hamm involved with our movie ideas, but this blows that out of the water.
Oh, dude, God bless it.
It's way more believable too.
Yeah. It's also more likely to happen. So the end of this movie is that Carrie
Sorry, I'm thinking about all the movies that we can do, and I'm just getting. He's just like, so you're willing to do this for all of the money in the world? That's all of it. Like,
what was that movie that you watched a couple weeks ago? That it was something about billboards.
Oh, 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Dude, could you imagine? So you're telling me she bought 3 billboards out of?
What's the next Wes Anderson movie that's coming out?
Dude, Island of Dogs, which looks fucking great. Like,
so you're talking about land surrounded by water. So it's like an island of dogs? I don't even sound like Clint Howard, but it's
no, it's fine. We got it. I'm imagining it.
Yeah.
It's like, so wait, they sing in pitch perfect tones, and they've done this 3 times now?
Hey, so I want to tell you guys a fun little side note about Pitch Perfect 3. That's the final one that's coming out, right?
Well, that's
so
what they're
they say,
claiming. Yeah, we'll find out. It says the farewell tour, so I'm assuming it's going to be the same as like any Van Halen farewell
Yeah,
tour.
I can't wait for the comeback tour. It's going to be great.
So you know that band, the Whiskey Shivers?
Yes.
My wife has kissed the singer of that band.
Ooh.
They went to college together. And he was an asshole then, so I'm sure he's not much better now.
I'm a fan of the Pitch Perfect movies, but I'd like the Pitch Perfect 3 movie better if it was actually like a rugged Western about 3 singers that travel town to town and like clean up the streets and like the Pitch Perfect 3 was just the name of their gang. It's like, oh no, the Pitch Perfect 3 is rolled into town.
Are you basically saying the Three Amigos sequel that
Yes.
should have happened? Like,
Yes.
Maybe one day, dude. Maybe one day.
I don't know. Steve Martin will never be entertaining again, sadly.
Oh.
He's really full of himself and an asshole now.
That's upsetting. Maybe he's just upset because he's looked like he was 80 since he was 20 years old.
It's just finally catching to him.
I don't know. Maybe he's just really bitter because he spent all his money and free time learning how to play banjo. Like, if we're talking about anachronisms, banjo.
Well, I mean, maybe it's because someone made him watch The Wraith.
It could be worse. He could be playing fucking harmonica.
I was just gonna say, like, what do you hate more, banjo or harmonica? Because like banjo could easily have
No,
been-
banjo I don't mind. Banjo is just kind of a silly, worthless sounding instrument. It just, like...
I love the banjo.
and hot take. Yeah.
Listen, I grew up around bluegrass and folk music, and I've heard enough banjo to get me all the way to hell and back.
Yeah,
literally.
sure. Yeah.
So here's the end of this movie, guys. After having sex with Charlie Sheen, just on a whim, in that culvert that has probably incredible melting man goo in it.
Yeah, just floating around, be like, "Hey guys, remember me?"
Yeah.
Fisherman's head just bops by in the water during one.
Yeah, and then somebody has to make some shitty comment about getting head at the culvert. So anyway, they have sex, and then some shit happens, and then Carrie's all unfazed when Charlie Sheen just materializes in front of her, and he does a bunch of ghosty shit, and then she's like, "Oh, it's you," and it's they kind of hand wave that he's not the same person that was in the flashbacks by saying this is as close as I could get to looking like my old self, which is fine, I guess.
Which how?
But
Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't. You have brown hair. Good job. And pecs. So then here's my question, my takeaway question. Did Charlie Sheen turn Carrie into a ghost at the end of this? Because he's like, we're going to go somewhere together, and it doesn't matter where. And then they turn into a ball of light and zoom off.
Yeah, he slit her
together.
throat, and she's dead now, and they get to fucking travel the world.
Yeah, so they are wraiths together because he didn't come back to life. He's still a ghost.
It's a weird,
but he's a corporeal ghost that can put its dick in its ex-girl in its still living girlfriend.
It's a weird.
So this movie is a ghost sex movie.
Oh, dude! Oh, we made it. Finally, guys.
It's been a while, but we're back.
It's weird because it's trying so hard to be this weird happy ending, which again doesn't. It's not that horror movies can't have happy endings, but it's just one of those things where it's like it also doesn't fit the mold for what everybody calls it. Like it's just like, what are we trying to accomplish by being like, yeah, you're a wraith now too? Is it setting up a sequel? Is it a happy ending? Like none of which are great. Like none of which are good endings to this fucking movie.
Yeah, and what about her family? Doesn't she have any family in this small town? Just a tell?
I think she must have killed her own family and owns that house that she walked away from going to school and or work.
Oh my god! You know what I realized? She is actually Molly Ringwald's character in Pretty in Pink. So her dad, he spent the rest of his life wondering where his favorite person in the world went. She's just like, fuck dad, I'm going to go be with my ghost boyfriend. Harry Dean Stanton, yeah. And he just died in 2017.
Rough.
R.I.P.
He spent from 1988, whenever this movie came out or whatever. 80. Wow. Wow.
Brutal.
He spent 31 years wondering where his little girl went.
That is such an obscure reference, Scott. You've been explaining that joke for 5 minutes, and I just got it.
I don't know what I was referring to, but my last note is kidnapping is cool. So,
well, accurate.
Oh wait, no, never mind. I remember what it was now that I had to think about it for a second. Which we're like Nick Cassavetes' character Packard is awful. Yeah. Like he plays him great. Like I'm not like Cassavetes is playing.
I don't think he played him great at all. Well, I don't think he acted well at all in this movie.
I think the character is written that way. I think I blame it on how it was written. Like I think he definitely played a weirdly written character. Therefore, he played that weirdly written character. Like I think he played him probably what it looked like on the paper. I'm assuming compared to what everybody else's characters looked like on paper.
Yeah.
Like Skank and Greaseball, Gutter Boy. Probably my favorite punk, actually, besides Rughead. Gutter Boy was pretty great.
I couldn't tell if him and Skank, is that the other guy?
Skank, yeah.
I couldn't tell if they were good actors and that's why I hated them, or they were abysmally terrible actors and that's why I hated them.
Agreed. Dude, agreed. Gutter Boy, I was like, oh man, he's really playing up that lisp, like, great. But is it just too much of a character choice? Or is it like, do you have a lisp? I didn't know. I wasn't sure. But kidnapping is cool, is what I have.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Mega Ran, teacher, rapper, hero, and huge wrestling fan. Every week, you can join me and my co-host and a special guest talking about the week in wrestling, talking about historic events, and playing some great hip-hop influenced by, you got it, wrestling. It's Mega Ran. Matt Mania is the name of the show. Search that on any of your favorite podcast apps. Tune in, turn it up, and get busy.
All right, so what did you guys watch this week?
I'll kick it off.
Yeah, do it.
All right, so in keeping with the 80s vibe of this episode, I've been holding on to these for a little while. It's been like over a month since I watched these, but I watched Inner Space for the first time since probably 1990 or something, and that movie just is not fun.
Oh no!
I don't enjoy that movie. Like, there's a reason why I watched it one time and was like, eh. And it was on Netflix, and I had nothing better to watch as I was like stretching one night. I was like in front of the fireplace, just warming my butt cheeks,
nice,
stretching out, a little bit of easy yoga because I'm not talented at any kind of stretching. I'm very, very unlimber. So anybody that has sex fantasies about me, just realize that I won't be able to do any cool tantric stuff for you in real life. So anyway, I was trying to watch Inner Space, and I really hate Martin Short. He is unwatchable.
Oh, he's not great.
Megan just heard me say that, and she is upset. she loves. Matt's laughing maniacally. Well, okay, he's a good foil in Captain Ron to.
He was awesome
Snake,
in Clifford, where he played an 8-year-old boy.
Okay, so now we're getting to the crux of why he sucks. I didn't even mean to make that rhyme, but there you go. So, Inner Space is not a movie that I would ever rewatch, and The Cowboy is just everything about that movie is like The Wraith. It's just there are no stakes. You know, everything's gonna be fine. You know that there's gonna be a happy ending. It's not. It's just an adventure flick. It's like an 80s adventure flick. This movie, The Wraith, it was also an 80s adventure flick.
Yep.
It's not a horror movie. Absolutely not a horror movie. It's the least horror movie that we've ever discussed, and we just discussed The Guyver.
Yeah.
But the other thing I watched that actually does pertain to horror is on Shudder. They have a great documentary section, and I watched You're So Cool, Brewster.
Oh, I heard that.
And that was. Yeah, it had been on my to-do list, to-watch list for quite some time, and it is the best horror doc that I've watched in a long... It's probably the best horror doc I've watched.
Are those the guys who did Leviathan, the Hellraiser doc? Are those the same guys?
I don't know, because I haven't watched the Hellraiser doc.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's really, really good, and there's so much information. They got a good chunk of the living cast to talk. There's just so much behind the scenes. It's very captivating. It's not dry at all. They talk about the creature effects a lot, and you know that does it for me because practical effects are literally my favorite thing about what we do on this podcast. And it's just such a great documentary. It's just I have nothing but good things to say about it, and I would recommend anybody that hasn't seen it, watch it. Anybody that has seen it, watch it again. If you don't have Shudder, once again, it's my bi-monthly time to say you need to get a Shudder subscription. It's like $7 a month, or maybe it's $6 a month. I don't know what it is right now, but get it. It's absolutely worth it. They have the most incredibly perfect curation service for horror. You will find something to watch every single time you go on to Shudder, and there are even horror documentaries, which I don't think you'll find them anywhere else.
All right, so I will jump in here real quick with two of the things that I watched this week. A few things, anyway. I watched Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, which is a super fun kids movie. I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was. I actually really loved those books as a kid, and it holds up to what I remember those books being. I also watched Mother with an exclamation point, and I thought that it was okay with a question mark. And Scott and I participated in one of the many, many things that we offer to our Patreon subscribers. Anybody who donates $20 or more will get to do a quick movie night on Skype with Scott and well, definitely with me and Scott if he's available. And we watched for Christmas Silent Night from 2012, and man, that movie starts strong and then it falls the fuck apart. So
I don't think it started strong, Matt. I think that we spent an hour and a half trying to talk about anything but what was on the screen.
It's got the most uncomfortably long nude scene that I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Yeah, and you know she didn't get paid enough for that.
Not at all. But that's...
She was probably nude for 3 days of shooting.
But if you ever want to watch a movie with Scott and I on Skype, feel free to check out our Patreon account at patreon.com/HMN podcast. And if you'd like some more in-depth details for the movies that I've talked about throughout this month, you can get the reviews when you get the newsletter through us. So that's my shameless plug as well. On to Kyle, who also is going to tell us what did he watch this week, as well as where you can go to buy some cool horror stuff and or see his documentary.
Oh man, it's all happening. So that You're So Cool, Brewster doc was not done by the guys who did the Leviathan doc, but they are currently doing RoboDoc, the creation of RoboCop, and they're in pre-production on Pennywise, the story of It. So they have a bunch of cool horror docs potentially coming out. So I'm glad to hear that You're So Cool, Brewster was good, because that means the other ones are going to be even better, if not as good. I watched The Voyeur, which was a documentary on Netflix about I want to say New York, or I want to say a freelance journalist for like his whole life. He's been a journalist and a reporter, and he found a gentleman who openly admitted to buying a motel specifically to film the inhabitants of that hotel. And for like however many years, 20 years or however long, he did so. And then this documentary is all about the statute of limitations kind of expiring on what he did 20 or so years ago, and him telling his story through this reporter, and then the relationship that he has with the reporter. Very creepy, very interesting. Also, like, just well done documentary on Netflix. And other than that, I also revisited Severance from 2006, maybe? Christopher Young, I believe. British horror comedy. Really fun. Like, really, really, really fun. Smart, well done, creative. I bought it kind of on a whim a while back, and I've been kind of purging my DVD collection. I pulled it out and was like, I don't know if I really care to keep Severance. I'll watch it and see if I like it. Dug it. And if you're talking about like directors who have a great streak of films, his film Creep, then Severance, then Triangle, all incredibly different, all incredibly well done.
Triangle's the one on the boat, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
Triangle's a great movie.
Yeah.
I did not like it.
No, it's.
I remember fighting so many people on Reddit about that because I don't like the internal logic that they had with the time travel.
That's fair. That's fair. And look, I don't think I necessarily. It's not necessarily for me, but I really like. As far as how different of that filmmaker could be, now, I guess now in turn, having watched Severance again, like that trajectory of films between Creep, then Severance, then because they're back to back to back. I'm just like, holy shit, this dude has like a great eye and just a great directorial presence, for lack of a better term, in order to do all three of these tones. Like, I was just like, damn. So I ended up keeping Severance on DVD. I didn't get rid of it.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, man.
Well, I guess for both of you guys, I bought a copy of Severance back in like 2006 or 2007 to watch it. I didn't love it. I sold it off to like the movie exchange years ago. But when I bought a copy of Severance, I also bought a copy of this movie called The Cottage. It's basically like a British version of Hatchet.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you guys ever seen that movie?
No, never seen it.
It's just like ultra violent, pretty gross. The kills are just really gruesome. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, and that just triggered that memory. And I figured since it was at the tip of my mind, I'd ask. But maybe we could slum it with that at some future date. I'll put it on my long list because it's not good. I don't know if we could make a good movie, a good episode out of it, but it might be worth.
I was just looking it up. Andy Serkis is the lead
in The Cottage.
The Cottage, yeah. If it's the one from 2000,
wow,
yeah, he's the lead. He might not. I mean, he's the first build. I shouldn't say he's the lead. But.
Oh yeah, he's not the lead. He's but he's not the monster.
Gotcha.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realize that was 2008.
Yeah, I had never seen it. There was a big surge of British horror that kind of came out in the mid to late 2000s. A lot of it kind of passed me by. I like Creep and Severance. Severance screwed me up a little bit because of that like weird sort of storyline about people kidnapping people in the woods and killing them. That's what I didn't like about it. That's what turned me off from it. I still kept it, but that's what I didn't like about it, and it also I think is what prevents me from returning to watch it until 5-6 years pass or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that was funny, and then I remember it's not so fucking funny because it's like kind of brutal.
You know what else that guy did? This Christopher Smith.
I'm sorry, Christopher Smith, not Young. Yeah,
he did Black Death.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I have never seen it. Was it any good?
That movie rules.
Yeah,
like it's way better than it should be. Yeah. Well, I like stuff with swords, and I like period pieces. I love medieval stuff, and that movie was really great. It did have some stupid parts. I don't know if I would want to own it. I don't really own a whole lot of movies anymore.
Sure.
I spend my money on Nintendo games, but I do remember really enjoying my watch of it. So I do have like a positive emotion when I think about it, but maybe it doesn't hold up to the second watch. But I never saw Creep, but is Creep kind of like a remake of Raw Meat from the 70s?
I'm not familiar with Raw Meat, so I couldn't speak totally to that.
Okay, it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all. Don't.
Yeah, no. I mean, Christopher Smith's Creep is just about a woman who gets trapped in the subway, and there's like a descent type creature who lives there, if I remember correctly. But there's also like a labyrinth of tunnels and kind of shit that she finds out and can't, go through. So there's like a couple other characters. It's not just like her dealing with creatures. It's like there's a couple other people and characters that she runs into down there, but she gets trapped in the subway. It's got that mid 2000s, like everything's blue, like lighting to it, but it's a fine movie. It's good for, I think it was his first movie, and it's like, it's got some great moments. It's got some great atmosphere to it. It scared the hell out of me when I watched it, because I was like, fuck that. Like, fuck being trapped in the tunnel. Like, I didn't know that could happen. I didn't know you could just get trapped in the subway system. But that movie was like, oh, I guess you can, and I will never do that again.
So, if you had to rewatch one of the two, would you rewatch Creep or The Midnight Meat Train?
Probably Midnight Meat Train. And I will say only because I have watched Creep a few times, like over the years. And Midnight Meat Train I've only seen once, and it's really because of the current situation. I mean, I was reading a little bit of Clive Barker recently, and it'd be nice to like see some more of his stuff on film. I just bought Rawhead Rex, which I heard is not great, but I just read the short story out of Books of Blood 3, I think is where it is. So like, I'd like to see what they do with it. So I'd probably watch Midnight Meat Train again.
All right.
Fair enough.
So real quick, how do you, how about you give a quick, advertisement for how people can check out Phantasm. I kept almost saying Fangasm. Phantasm.
No, that's all right. There was a show that came out called Fangasm, and it like they attached themselves to my IMDb page at one point with all of their like clips of their show, and I was like, I guess. So I did a documentary called Phantasm a while back. You can find it on Facebook, just facebook.com/phantasmdoc. On Twitter. It's not so active right now because I'm working on a new documentary called Survival of the Film Freaks, which we're in post-production on right now. And that one is so Phantasm's all about horror conventions. It was my senior project in film school, so it's not the best quality, but it comes from the heart, and it's really kind of fun. And then Survival of the Film Freaks is going to look a lot better, and it's also about how cult films are followed in the 21st century with technology being what it is. Like, how does that change the definition of cult? So it's half sort of history of, part love letter, and then not half. It's part history of, part love letter, part how technology changes what that means and what does it look like for the future of cult and underground independent film. So that one's called Survival of the Film Freaks. We're in post-production on it now. Phantasm you can find on Facebook. There's a link to buying a DVD, and there's a link to potentially streaming it on Vimeo. And that's pretty much it. You can also find me on Etsy at Horror Finds. I peddle a bunch of my horror wares, paperbacks, vinyl, VHS, just fun stuff I find in the wild that I don't really want to keep for my own collection. So I offer it back to you for basically what I bought it for. Most of it anyway. That's what I got going on.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. That was The Wraith from 1986, as forced upon us by you guys. I mean, you can't always knock them out of the park, I guess. Scott, actually, that movie was suggested to us. One of the emails was from our friend Morgan, who actually joined us on the Skype discussion of Silent Night. So, Morgan, now we're definitely not watching Phantasm 3. So thank you guys so much for all of the stuff that you do, all the donations that you make, and all of the stuff that's going on. You guys are the best, and we'll be back next week with another movie and a new guest co-host.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.